Hi, my name is Rich. I'm trying to become the next governor of Washington State in November. Our country's internal politics were founded on persuasion, which is a really important aspect of how our society operates today. So here are 10 minutes to becoming more persuasive in your discussions concerning personal reconciliation. Persuasion consists of two parts, ideas and passion, and both of these are required. Without either one of these, you cannot be persuasive. The first part is to have very good ideas or thoughts about an issue, and the second is to be passionate about those ideas. Persuasion is in fact the opposite of coercion, whereas persuasion seeks to lead and convince people toward a certain stance on an important issue, coercion seeks to force people toward that stance. An example of persuasion is a speech by a person with very good ideas on an important topic, whom you can tell really believes in what they're saying. An example of coercion is a mob of people threatening a person until that person concedes to their demands. As well, we have all seen examples of people attempting to use only one half of persuasion, trying to convince others with either just their ideas or just their passion, and their efforts end up being rather unpersuasive. Let's make this a part of our Washington State culture. Let's reconcile on a personal level in order to move forward together. What if we, as Washingtonians, could develop a unity not yet seen by the rest of the country? What if we could lead the country in this? What if we made it a part of who we are? What if we could address our current struggles as a single community battling issues rather than as opponents? This would not require fully sharing each other's views, but finding common ground within them. I've seen this opponent phenomenon personally. When asking groups from the other side of the political spectrum for any interest in discussing the issues in a mutually respectful environment, I found that there is none. I found that there currently exists no interest in discussing important issues with someone that you disagree with. It seems that people no longer cultivate opinions via live discussions with other people, but rather via online and media sources. Perhaps this is a natural consequence of decreasing personal interaction in our culture as a whole. The only problem is that people are usually far kinder and more open-minded in person as compared to the extremes found online. Are we politically polarized because we no longer engage in the middle ground of personal conversation, especially with those we disagree with? You can find hundreds of articles written about the concept of technology killing our in-person activity, with young people replacing social interaction with social media to the average of 9 hours per day, couples replacing personal discussion with phone-based social duties, and even little children attaching to devices for an average of 3 hours per day. The term they use to describe this replacement of personal interaction by online activity is social displacement. Usage of social media by American adults has increased from 5% in 2005 to over 70% today. For teens, the number is 81% social media users, and it has resulted in them losing an hour of vital in-person interaction each and every day. Whatever the cause, Pew Research found in 2019 that negative political partisanship is deepening, as people from one party increasingly describe the opposite party as close-minded, immoral, and unpatriotic, with up to 80% of all Americans saying these things. About the same number of people state that divisions are increasing among Americans, to the point that it's even becoming difficult to agree on basic facts. It is now widely seen that political stances now affect how people view nearly every aspect of life. Their survey from 1994 to 2017, the past 25 years or so, saw a dramatic shift from the vast majority of US adults being politically centrist, that is, holding both conservative and liberal viewpoints, to being highly polarized in consistently holding either one or the other. Many have pointed to civil discourse, the ability to discuss important issues in an intentionally respectful and non-hostile manner, as an answer. And it is true that it is important. Civil discourse has been a staple of our society since its foundation. It is a good start, but there must be more than just speaking peacefully together. I would offer that your discussions should be taken one important step further. There should be a loving discourse, an interaction based on a caring intent toward the person, where you can take their words as thoughtful input and provide the same in return. You have to be willing to engage people, however. If you have a message worth carrying, you have to actually carry it to the world. Find a way to love the person regardless of their political stances, personal behavior, or beliefs. It can be difficult though, no doubt. Pew Research has shown a growing divide between secular liberals and religious conservatives, evidenced by some pretty notable trends. Each successive generation of Americans holds less religious affiliation, decreasing from 83% to 66% today. A third of all millennials consider themselves unaffiliated to religion, and each successive generation states that religion is less important in their life, decreasing from 60% to 43%. Now, I understand the question arises, how are we supposed to interact with someone we disagree with so strongly, or who we might think is immoral? How can we interact with someone we find their actions reprehensible? My answer would be to answer the following question, which happens to be one of the two great questions that any person should ask themselves. The question I will ask you is, what is your greatest good? By your greatest good, I mean to ask, what is your fundamental job here on earth? What is your highest work? What do you do? What is the best use of your talents, time, and effort? What is your greatest good? Your primary and best job? The work you should do that comes from you? That is what I mean to ask when I ask, what is your greatest good? If it would help, take a moment and pause the video to answer the question. Take days if you need to, because I'm going to tell you the answer to that question next. It is the answer to one of the two most important questions a person can ask themselves. Okay, so we're back. So, what is your greatest good? Your fundamental job here on earth? It is to love other people. Everyone. Every other person. Not yourself, not just people who agree with you, not just people who look like you, but every person. That is your greatest good. These other people include your family, your neighbors, your fellow citizens, your non-fellow citizens, and even your enemies. You are to engage and love these people to the best of your ability, for your entire life, with everything you have and every bit of energy and inspiration that you can muster. That is how you engage with those you might find opposite to yourself. That is how you engage with those you disagree with. Your fundamental job is to love all other people. Nowhere in that statement does there exist a checklist of values or habits or even beliefs. You are to love them because they are people, simply that. And when you do this, you will see that their hearing of your message becomes infinitely more important than how they might currently differ from you. That certainly does not mean that you must accept or promote their actions, but you must certainly love the person. Okay, so now for a few specific places where we could really use some reconciliation. To the doomsdayers, those who have chosen to permanently supply up and withdraw from society to await the end times. You can challenge them to examine every moment that they spend supplying up and hiding. Every moment, every bit of resources directed toward this are not just misguided, but they are actually wasted. It is not their duty to supply up and hide. Do they not have a commission to take a message to every corner of the earth? Because those two things seem opposite to me. Challenge them that there are countries where good men hide, to such a degree that the best they can do is just survive, where good men have lost social priority and in its place violence reigns. We need good people to stay in the fight, to engage, even to injury or death, ensuring that good maintains priority in our society. They are not called to supply up and hide. They are called to stand among the nations and carry their message, even to their death. This duty is engagement via persuasion, not withdrawal or coercion. Within the Republican Party, find a way to reconcile enough to move forward together. You don't have to reconcile completely or fully share each other's views, but find enough. Stop wounding each other behind the shop. To the militias, challenge them in asking if they are not emulating violent motorcycle gangs. Is it a violent Christian gang? If you remove Christian from that phrase, isn't it just violent gang? Challenge them that there are places in the world like Haiti, which has 10,000 charitable organizations and has used hundreds of thousands of foreign workers and volunteers, all of which have security needs and shortages. Perhaps this would be a far better alternative for those who would currently choose to coerce rather than persuade. I think that in the United States, all terrorists should be in prison, as required that they have met the definition as stated by our laws and found guilty by our justice system, not the media, the public, or mere government opinion. To those who would establish a religious state government, I am a strong proponent for the official separation of church and state. I think there's nothing better to keep the church pure while allowing for diverse input of ideas for the state. Church bodies with power tend to corrupt, begin forcing religion, and suffer from stagnation of ideas. We have seen this before in history with the medieval inquisitions, the witch trials, the Puritan departure from England, and sexual abuse scandals. Church rule over society actually results in a significant and irreplaceable loss of religious freedom, whereas good power is based on service to others and acknowledges its inherent responsibilities. Places where there is power without service will eventually and always be abused. If there is a person filling a role or government position without service motivating them, history says that the corrupting force of that power will affect its holder. When a religious body takes on civil governing, it will fail somewhere and eventually abuse its religious-based power. Wielding power is not what the church is good at. Instead, what is the church good at?